Hi guys, Mike here. I know it's been a while since I've posted any new videos on anything, but I'll be quick on what I've been making progress with because I've actually had a lot of time off here in the doing snow removal in my job, and there's been a lot of sitting where I'm at right now. So I'll show you the progress I've made on painting and doing washing on mountains, weathering rails, and making and painting roads. So far, the castings that I made, the plaster castings that I set in here on the styrofoam mountains have actually given it a very good effect. And I've just been using the Woodland Scenics work, I should say, and all their casts and molds, and they've actually given the rock a really nice look. I painted everything. I'm going a different route because I don't like applying washes over white plaster. It's not a deep enough or dark enough tone for rock that I like. So I've painted everything with what's called a light stone latex paint that I just bought at my local store, and they actually custom mixed it for me, and I'm just using a quart. From there, I painted everything, the back hills, the foothill, which I'll get into more detail over here, and some of the rock castings over here, and the major mountain that I'm working on here, all in that latex paint. Then after it was dried for about a day or two, I came back with a 1-inch brush, and I got in all the nooks and crannies into here. The only thing that you have to be careful about when you're painting with latex paint is that if you go too heavy, it can take away from the detail of the rocks. And I applied the molds and all the casting pieces once they were pulled out of the molds, and I just basically took some wall putty and just applied it on like you're applying tile, and it actually was a really effective way of doing it. So this has turned out really good. This still hasn't been washed, so I'm going to go into greater detail on how I did that on a centerpiece here so far. So essentially what I've done with this rock, and I am extremely happy with the way that this rock has turned out. All this is styrofoam painted in that same gray latex paint, flat mind you, and then just with an assortment of washes, I've been able to darken the rock and provide some very nice contrast and shadows, which I like. I like having a really bold rock. I don't like having flat gray and then just dry brushing a white onto it. It's not enough for me. I like my rocks to stand out. The detail in it came out way better than I had even anticipated. And essentially what I've been doing is I've been layering it using different forms of acrylic paint bought at a hobby store, and these were very cheap, $1 a piece, so you can go through them like crazy. And I've been making my own washes with acrylic paint. It's super easy. I don't really know the mixture off the top of my head, but I've been mixing these about half of a cup here with water, and then I use about, I guess you could say it's about 50-50. I'll use half of a bottle of paint, but because these are so cheap, it's no problem going through these and just buying more if I need them. You mix them up really thoroughly, and from there you just use a sponge applicator, and you just apply it layer by layer by layer. And you do two techniques, which I've learned through modeling miniatures. Is there's flooding, where you flood the entire area and you let gravity do its work, and then there's highlighting, where you can actually take a semi-dry brush. It's not dry brushing. You still have your brush kind of soaked, and you lightly drag it over the rock to just highlight certain areas, and it'll dry in there. It works really well. This rock turned out absolutely fantastic from applying these techniques, and the cool thing is, because everything is acrylic and water-based, if you get too heavy, I just have a little scenic sprayer bottle here, and all it has is just nice clean tap water. Just spray it down with tap water when you're if it gets too heavy. Like if you find that you have too much brown, give it a couple shots and it'll just wash it away. Let it dry and away you go. And I usually let each layer of wash dry for about 45 minutes to an hour. It's lengthy, but the nice thing is you can definitely see the earthy tones a lot more. This one I still have to apply a couple different washes, but this foothill turned out, sorry about the shadows here, turned out really well too. I love the browns and the grays that have come out through this using the washes. I still got to work a little bit more onto it, but I'm thinking that's going to turn out good. The road was just a plaster road that I made with two-sided tape, which turned out really, really good. And I'm not really too worried about getting paint in these areas because everything's going to be covered eventually with grass and rubble, so I'm not really concerned about just getting paint everywhere. It's not a big deal. It's all going to be covered up. And then I had a custom paint mixture called Midnight Black, and it's a super dark gray with a hint of black, and it looks very close to aged asphalt right when it's dried and painted. And I'm going to weather this road to make it look even better. One of my favorite pieces so far that came out in the washing process is one of these sidewalls to the, get out of the sunlight there. This has had the exact same washing technique, and this is just styrofoam with the casting molds that I made just applied together, and I had to blend them all together using like wall putty, but it worked out really well. And there's the back of the styrofoam, but I washed this using a dark sienna 50-50 mix and then a black mix, and this is probably the most realistic rock I've ever been able to produce so far, but it looks absolutely fantastic. It's nice and dark the way I want my Canadian Rockies to turn out, and this is going to look really good once I get the rest of the matching layout rocks to look the same this way, so that is fantastic. As far as that goes, the only other thing I've really done in the meantime is just kind of some light weathering on the track, and this was really easy to do. In fact, there's been a lot of great videos on show how to do it. I just went out, bought some flat matte trem-clad brown paint because I do like the look of a brown look on the side of the railroad rails themselves. And you can see in there it's provided a really good kind of rusty hue to the rails. It actually darkened the black flex track actually quite a bit. And once this has the whitish gray ballast on there, it'll look fantastic. That's all for now. I'll post another update on how the major mountain goes with the washes. If you guys have any questions or concerns, please do post them. The next step up is applying foliage, buildings, and detail. It's come along quite well, and thank you for all your YouTube support. Signing off, this is Mike.